Hi all, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. It's a really good punting weekend upcoming between, well, as far as the races we're going to be covering, between Ayr and Newbury. Flattened jumps, but by and large, we've got some decent handicaps to get stuck into as well. Certainly one of the Guineas trials is fairly open, one not so much, but the Scottish National is where we're going to be starting. We'll come to that. Just a friendly reminder to like and subscribe to the podcast because, of course, it makes it easier for you to watch each and every time or listen that we provide you with some content that's across all sports as well. The Premier League podcast is up as we speak. I'm going to get stuck into that and hopefully be hearing about how Arsenal are going to get beat tonight and Tottenham are going to win on Sunday. No chance. Adele Mulrennan, Steve Jones, Charlie Poste are my guests. And as I said, in we go with the Scottish National first of all. Rather than give you the prices at the top, I'll just get the guys to give the prices they expect them to be, or I'll read them out. And Adele, I'm going to start with you because you're going with last year's second, which I backed last year and watched with head in hands as I realised that he wasn't going to get it done, but you think he might do this year. Kitty's Light.
Yeah, well, Win My Wings is not in there, and I mean, she was kind of looking like she was still kind of well handicapped, wasn't she, going into it last year? I mean, he absolutely loves these marathon tests. I think that's the reason why I picked him. Whenever he steps up to this kind of trip, he really kind of gets to show just how good he is. It's funny, isn't it, when you get horses that there's not enough for these long distance races, is there really, for horses like him that just really do just want to go as far further as possible. But he was second last year. I know he was well clear of the third. He's coming in obviously after winning the Ida, so he's in good form. He's got the cheap pieces back on, and I just think you'd be mad not to have at least a little bit on Lucinda Russell's horse, Your Own Story, given the fact that they do so well with these kind of horses, don't they? I mean, to win two kind of nationals in the matter of 2 weeks would be, it'd be great for them, wouldn't it? But this horse, obviously, we don't quite know if he'll stay that far, but when he won at Wetherby, he certainly wasn't stopping at the line. It's a nice big galloping track. So if one thing you've got on your side is stamina, then it shows at Wetherby. So definitely interested in having a little bit on him. And then obviously Kitty's Light, who hopefully I think should be able to do it again, because he's one of those horses, isn't he, where he's been running in graded races, and then as soon as he kind of gets a race like this to run in, he kind of really gets to utilise his stamina.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let me just give you those prices. Not with Kitty's Light, but with Your Own Story. So Kitty's Light, actually, Monbeg Genius and Kitty's Light are joint favourites now at 6.0, and Your Own Story is 9.0. I'm definitely with you with Your Own Story. I think he'll stay because he kept on well enough last time in what looked, I know he's a beaten favourite, but I thought it was an ideal prep for something like this. And just Derek Fox is going to be full of confidence. I think they're going to want to ride this horse similarly to how Corrit Rambler was ridden. And I think he's got a lovely profile for this. The other one I wanted to put up was Under Supervision, who he wears cheek pieces because he can be a bit of a dodgy jumper. But I thought he shaped well last time, staying on. I've always had him in mind for a marathon type test, and I still think he's fairly treated at 21.0. I know it seems silly given that he can put in the odd bad jump, and there are going to be more jumps than he's ever had here. But I don't know. I still think he's got a bit of room off his mark. So 21.0 Under Supervision, I'll give a little nudge to as well. Charlie, who are you going for, sir?
I've gone with Monbeg Genius. I mean, we all seem to be sort of grouping around the head of the market, which in an ultra competitive big field is slightly irritating, but I just couldn't get away from him. The form in the Ultima, I thought he ran a massive race there, and like I say, the form with Corrit Rambler doesn't look bad now, does it? And he just has a very upwardly progressive profile. I don't think John Joe has won this race before, John Joe Senior, that is, but I can see that changing tomorrow. And like I say, if there's a horse in the field with the potential to rate a bit higher up than this and progress further still, I think it's Monbeg Genius. I think the trip will be absolutely fine. I think he's a decent jumper. I think he's tactically fairly versatile about how they can ride him. And I just think there's a huge upside to this horse. The Your Own Story angle is interesting. I think with Lucinda Russell, you've got to respect whatever she runs, haven't you, really, now? I mean, they are probably the one incredibly, a yard on an upward trajectory. I mean, I was talking to her at the sales, and would they take five runners to Aintree? They won a national, a grade 1. You know, if Ahoy Senora jumped the last better, they might have had another grade 1, and then they had a second, the big handicap chase as well. They're having a phenomenal time, and they seem to be upgrading the caliber of horses that they have, and they were spending more money yesterday. So definitely a yard that's been around for a long time, but I think is only going to rate higher as we move forward into next year and beyond.
Their bumper horse ran well too. I know he finished 6th, but he only faded out of it late. Honestly, they were on fire up there. That horse is 6.0. Anyway, Monbeg Genius, the John Joe Neal horse you mentioned. Steve Jones, 41.0. Look, you found one.
Well, I hope so. I must say, I do respect, I think, the top of the market, Kitty's Light. Kitty's Light seems to be around for ages. It's only a 7-year-old and started jumping as a 4-year-old with jumping fences. And Monbeg Genius, I was all over in the Ultima and ran really well. Your Own Story is another. But there's 2 I like. I've come down on Ruthless Article just narrowly. I think it's going to dry out the ground today. There's a bit of rain around tomorrow, but I think it's going to be decent ground, and that will suit Ruthless Article, who has only had 1 run since last summer, and that was when 5th or 6th behind 2 for Gold at Ascot. But this horse does not want to go right-handed. Going back left-handed would be absolutely ideal. Spent most of its career around 2.5 miles, 2.5, but stepped up in distance to 3.2 at Utoxeter last summer in the Summer Cup, which is always a really hotly contested race. Jerry's back one, who was well handicapped. Frankie de Burley was 3rd, who went on to win at Market Race in the big Summer Cup there. And Streets of Doyen, who's got good form back and killed a start. So it was a really hot race. And Ruthless Article saw the trip out really well that day. Just bumped into a better handicap one in Jerry's back. And then went on to win over 3-2 at Utoxeter. So I can't understand why this horse is trained by Rebecca Coates, who won this race 5 years ago. She hasn't really had many winners since then, because she hasn't had a winner since October. But she's nowhere near the level that she used to be. But she's still a very capable trainer. Things have gone a little bit pear-shaped for her, but she's still very good at, and I'm sure she's aimed this horse at this race. 1 run around a right-handed track, now going back left-handed, completely unexposed, and 41.0 is not a reflection of Ruthless Article's chance, I think. So with Ruthless Article winning place. Lord Accord, if it doesn't rain tomorrow and it's proper good ground, Virgin on the faster side, I can see Lord Accord running really well.
It's not allowed to. It's not. It can't. It can't, Steve. Please no. Please.
I've never been with this horse around sharper tracks like Wincanton, but ran really well in the Badger Beer 2nd of Frodon. It's run on soft ground the last twice. Once in the festival in the amateurs race, and then over hurdles in the Cleve Hurdle. I think that's going to run a big race, is providing there's not too much rain.
Do you think he'll definitely stay, even if the ground's good?
I think he's got a chance, hasn't he? I don't think sometimes you can't absolutely nail a horse, but I wouldn't put it past him, that's for sure. He certainly sees out 3 miles really well and beat the Wolf back at Cheltenham in October. And the Wolf is a bit iffy, but he's a horse that I think has got a big race in him at some point on decent ground.
Well, let's bring in the Wolves trainer, who has just been described as a bit iffy by Steve Jones. Just unbelievable. But he can be a bit in and out, can't he, the Wolf? Lord Accord, I put up at Cheltenham, so there we are. And then he didn't run in the race I thought he was going to. Ollie Murphy is with us. We'll get him back. He was just in there briefly. Also, Ollie has got a Matchbook ambassador, Ollie Murphy. He's got 3 horses who he's sending up to air. So I'd imagine Ollie's on the way there now, or he's already there, because one is running today in the form of Orvari. Do check out the other side of the fence, because Orvari is the horse who we see winning there, and Ollie's celebrating that success, and just shows you a little bit behind the scenes regarding Orvari. He's also got Thunder Rock and Hunter's Call as well. Ollie, you on the road? Oh, you might have taken it there. See if you can hear it. We'll stay with this, because if nothing else, it's good TV. Can you hear me, Ollie? No, he can't. No. That went well. What we'll do, we'll go on to the next race, and then when Ollie's ready to come back in, we'll just bring him in. So next up, we're going back to the start of the day, which ITV have added, the 115, the Scotty Brand Handicap Chase, and prices are as follows. A couple of horses that ran recently at Aintree. Fred Arm is 3.0, Pay the Piper 8.0, Elixir the Nuts is 8.0, Hasanki, who ran in the Pay the Piper race, 9.0, Return Tickets is 9.0. Then we're into bigger prices. All right, Steve, you and I agree. I thought this horse, Pay the Piper, he lost his place and then kept on in a race where the pace held up pretty well. I know it's a quick enough reappearance. Better ground, I think, is what he wants. I wanted to take on the favourite with him, 8.0. Come back in, Steve.
Christ. Yeah, he ran well at Aintree.
2 minutes, the last 120 seconds of podcasting has been exceptional.
Smooth. So, Pay the Piper ran all right in the red run at Aintree. I really fancied him. He is a kind of a horse that can lose his position a little bit, and like you say, they didn't come back at all. It's a funny race, the red run. They seem to go flat out but keep going, and maybe that was just a bit too much for Pay the Piper. But he's got form around this sort of track, like Musselburgh, and albeit that's the other way round. And previously he ran Calico to a nose. He was a bit unlucky that day. I thought just on the bob, and Calico is a really nice horse. So I think. Pay the Piper for Anne Hamilton, Brian Hughes, champion jockey next week. So all good.
Yeah, of course he is. I won't add much to that. I just, as I say, he kept on while having lost his place, and the race didn't really suit him. I hope they go hard enough here, but I think he's got a decent chance. Adele, your thoughts?
Okay, well, I went for a big price one for a horse that seems to have kind of really relished since he's had a wind operation and the blinkers on, Baron de Middleton, but he's actually entered today as well at 3 o'clock at Ayr. So I presume he's not a non-runner as of yet, and we're just short of lunchtime. So whether he runs again tomorrow or not, I'm not sure. But if he does, I'd just still have a small little place bet on him because he just seems to be in really good heart at the moment. He's actually entered today over just over 2.5 miles, and obviously it's a little bit shorter on Saturday. But just basically, I was just looking for something with a bit of value, really, and he was the one I came down on. But he might run today, so he might not even run tomorrow.
Peter, by the way, says Hasanki is an interesting punt. I agree and had a look at him and Pay the Piper.
As Tom froze, was my computer froze.
It's going really well today.
I was like, Charlie's still moving, and so is Steve. So I think exactly. It must be Tom.
You've got to love
next?
this.
Charlie,
shall I have a bash then? Yeah.
Charlie, you take over from here, Charlie.
Yeah. So I came down with another horse with the wind off angle like Adele. I came down with Return Ticket. He won this race last year off 137. He's off 136 today. He had the wind operation before Carlisle, and he was an impressive winner, beating Grand Voyage 8.5 lengths. He bumped up 9, which is excessive, but it shows from his previous performances he's still got capabilities off this mark. And again, I just wanted to kind of take on the ones at the top of the market. Hasanki and Pay the Piper I respect, but they had hard enough races at Aintree in a strongly run contest. And I don't know, Fred Arm, again, I just thought he was vulnerable, as in he won round Newbury. I didn't think he had a lot of excuses at Ascot, so I was happy to be against him also. Are you back with us, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I'm there. 9-0 horse. Can you hear me? Am I with you?
Cheers.
You're with us. Your face isn't, but your voice is.
Yeah.
Adele's in North Yorkshire countryside, Warwickshire countryside for Charlie. I'm in the Cotswolds. You're in near London somewhere, and you internet's crap. Fuck's sake.
I'm in Marlow. Ollie, can you hear us? How are you?
Should we just start the whole thing again?
Come in on it. Can you hear me, mate? You've started. How are you? No, good. Well, let's move on. We might have to abandon that bit. The is a good-looking contest. This champion handicap chase. City Chief 3.25, Oscar Elite 5.5, 6.0. Well done, 9.
And he's gone again.
Oh,
You go again, Charlie. You go again.
Yeah, I mean, like he said, the 150 at air, the Novices champion handicap chase. I got City Chief priced up at 3.25, Oscar Elite at 5.5, Sail Away at 6.0. Steve, why don't we start with you, mate? Where do you come down with this race?
Well, I'm going for Sail Away, Dan Skelton, ridden by Bridget Andrews. I think Bridget Andrews is criminally underused. I know she's second jockey to her husband, but I think poor Harry is not even the best jockey in his own marriage, but that's another matter. But Sail Away is her mount in this, and I think it's been lined up for a race like this. Hasn't stood a huge amount of racing, but seems to be on track now. Won at Warwick, albeit in a 3-runner race, but jumped really well that day from the front and loved the decent ground. And that was back in last spring. Had one run this season, which was only last month, and was a bit free in front. And I thought that was a perfectly respectable starting point at Chepstow, especially if that was on softer ground. The return to decent ground will suit this horse. If he is over his problems, I think he's going to take some stopping in this, because he'll be fresher than most and looks to have been lined up for it. So Sail Away is the way I'm going.
One of our great mates actually goes into Dan Skelton's and rides Sail Away out every day. And they actually, as a couple, they spend their lives permanently on holiday. I'm very jealous of the lifestyle they lead. And they're going up to air. She's that excited, Jilly, to about Sail Away running. So it's a big thumbs up from her, to be honest. So, Adele, I think, did you and I come down with City Chief, both of us?
We're gonna try adding Ollie in one final time. So, and then I'll let you lead the questions, Charlie. So get ready.
Did you come down with City Chief as well, Adele?
I have. Again, one that's coming in fresh, hasn't ran since February, and Nicky obviously thinks quite a lot of this horse. He swerved Cheltenham. He didn't think he was quite ready for it this year. He's still learning his job, I suppose. But he looks to be getting, from what I've seen from him earlier on in the year, he looks to be getting better and better. I mean, Racing Post give him a rating of 151. So he still looks like he's still got a little bit in hand. And if they're talking about him for Cheltenham for next year, then it'd be kind of nice to finish the season off, I suppose, on a high, wouldn't it? I'm a little bit worried about the pace, because he's been ridden always on the front end, but I think it's more because I think Nico said he wants a little bit further, so there looks to be plenty of pace on from what I could see. So I'm just a little bit worried that if they go a little bit quick, whether he might make some novice mistakes, but hopefully not. I just think he looks like he's a nice horse, and he looks like he's improving and going in the right direction.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just echo those sentiments. I mean, I think they took this race out with Dusart possibly last year as a class horse off top weight as well. And I think this horse has a similar profile. So City Chief for me, and welcome in Matchbook ambassador Ollie Murphy. He looks to have the camera mounted in the right position now, and it all seems set fair. Huvari today, I'll kick us off with his chances.
Yeah, I hope it's not as stressful 10 minutes as the last 10 minutes being trying to get on here. But yeah, he's in good form, Charlie. He's been very progressive. So yeah, looking forward to running him. Obviously, a step up in class today, but he's bolted up his last 2 starts. His Lingfield run actually worked out really, really well. So yeah, he's kind of come into the race a relatively fresh horse. Didn't get going till late. He had a bad bout of ringworm. So no, looking forward to running him. We'll make plenty of use of him, and hopefully he'll run very well.
Excellent. And tomorrow, obviously, a couple of chances there. Thunder Rock he's had a slightly, I don't know, frustrating campaign. Possibly, he's been campaigned highly. Where do you see him tomorrow in the Grade 2?
Yeah, listen, his season started off very well, obviously winning the Kalahari King and Uttoxeter, then winning an Ascot. He was then meant to go back to Ascot, and that was obviously abandoned at Christmas. And then we ended up going back to Cheltenham and running in the Dipper, where, listen, he was arguably an unlucky loser. He never really travelled through the race and came home real strong. He then ran Respect in the Grade 1 at Sandown and then didn't stay in an RSA on his last start at Cheltenham. So coming back in trip, as you said, he's been to a few dogfights this year, but seems in good form. Hopefully it's not a bridge too far for him, as in having won too many runs. But he was good at this meeting last year, and hopefully he'd have a chance.
It's probably a race with plenty of horses that all went to Cheltenham, isn't it? So I suppose it's who's going to bounce out of it best and still have a bit left in the tank, possibly.
Yeah, no, 100%. Obviously, we got a little bit to find with Belco Coastal off our Sandown run, and you could make actually a case for 2 or 3 others in the race as well. So there's some competitive race, good prize money, worth having a go at, and hopefully it doesn't dry out too much up here. As you can see, the sun is shining, but there's a little bit of rain around tomorrow, which will hopefully help.
And a real old favourite in the 2.5 mile handicap hurdle, Hunter's Call. I want your first ever big winner, and he's still going strong at 13 years of age, and it's still running up to a reasonable level of form.
Yeah, no, I actually tried him over 3 miles the last day, and he just travelled way too strong through the middle part of the race. So coming back in trip today, he actually ran well in this race last year. So looking forward to running him. Obviously tumbling down the handicaps, Lewis takes off a valuable £5 again, and I'd really love to win another race. This lad, Charlie, as you know, he gave me my first big winner, and listen, if I don't win a race with him, he'll still be retired to a happy home. But I still believe he's got ability and has a chance of winning a race before he retires.
Adele, Steve, any questions for Ollie about runners or anything coming up?
No, not really. It's good to see Hunter's Call still going, because these horses, obviously, he got your career off to a great start at Ascot, and to still be going is because he was a horse that had problems before he was with you, isn't he?
Yeah, he's had plenty of little niggly issues, Steve. So credit to everyone at home that he's still going at the age of 13, and he still showed that he kind of retains ability this season, albeit his last run was a disappointing run. But yeah, looking forward to running him, and listen, it'll be fantastic to see him win or run very well on what will probably one of his final starts, I'd imagine.
And just before you go, obviously Aintree was great, but slightly frustrating. A couple of horses at the crossbar, Strong Leader, Washington. Are they finished for the season, or their targets for Washington maybe through the spring?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna have a look at Swinton Hurdle for Washington, Charlie. I freshened him up for Aintree, and he probably just travelled a little bit too well, and was probably just a little bit kind of too far forward, shall we say, through the race. I thought the race was kind of made up for a closer, and we rode him very positive. So yeah, I'll have a look at a Swinton Hurdle for him. Strong Leader's finished. Listen, I was delighted with him, but I was frustrated at the same time. I'd have loved another 50 yards, because I think we'd be talking about Grade 1 winner if there was another 50 yards. But yeah, he's a very good horse. This time last year, he'd never even seen a race course in his life, so he's come a long way in a short space of time, and he's going to be a horse who's going to hopefully contest some really good races next year.
Thank God Tom Stanley's back. It's all yours.
Cheers, Ollie. Well done, mate. All the best. Good luck.
Cheers, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll speak to you then.
Bye.
Best of luck.
Cheers. Bye.
Charlie, superb stuff. I watched all that. There's proof that Ollie and I can't exist on the same podcast, but I'm back.
The hair looks like you've had a stressful few minutes. You've been running your hand through it.
Not only that. When I lifted my laptop up, I knocked a glass of water all over everywhere, all over the desk.
Oh no.
Did he say that Thunder Rock's going to win?
Not really.
No.
You've got to watch it back. We're not giving you information like that.
You know how some trainers are very confident. Ollie he's always on the fence, isn't he? Like he never goes, this will win.
Well, that's most trainers, isn't it?
Most of them, but it's like a Nichols would be much more bullish, wouldn't he? Or you just get some. And then you get some trainers that think everything's going to win. No names mentioned. But yeah, most will sit on the fence. But I'd never describe him as bullish, Charlie. Would you? Certainly not in the
not at all. I mean, the two of them are mates, but like they're both exceptionally gifted trainers. But he and Dan are very, Dan comes, as you said, from the Paul Nicholls school of like, we're going to puff our chest out and we're having a go at everything and we're doing this because this is the right decision and we're 110% into everything. Whereas, like you say, Ollie has a bit more of a sort of slightly more reflective approach that, like, he just is never overly bullish. But I don't know, I always get the impression with Thunder Rock he's a frustrating horse, isn't he? And do you not think there is obviously big pots in him, but it's trying to figure out what it is he exactly wants. So you'd have thought the 3 mile trip was kind of made for him, ridden quietly at Cheltenham, and it didn't work out at all, back down in trip. But I don't know, I think he's just one of those where he's just going to keep pitching up and they'll hope that he'll find a big pot somewhere along the line. Do you not think?
I think his problem is, I think he just keeps on making mistakes at crucial times. And at the moment, his jumping's not up to decent races. He needs a bit more practice because he hasn't had a huge amount of races over fences, has he? And I just think he needs a little bit more practice.
Well, we're going to come to him because I'm going to tip him up anyway. Let's return to that 150. So we've got two shouts each for Sail Away and City Chief. I can't remember who's gone and who hasn't, but Steve and I are going to make a case for Sail Away first of all. You can take it away, Steve.
Yeah, I already have. So you go.
Well,
if that's all right.
No, that's fine. The only thing I wanted to add to what I didn't hear you say was I was mainly against the top two in the betting. I'm not convinced with Oscar Elite personally. He's an old boy now, isn't he? And I thought that Sail Away. I know Bridget Andrews is taking over, but I thought the distance off the back of last time would really suit. Stepping back up in trip, good ground. I know has a little bit to find on official ratings, but and City Chief has been very good. I know, winning those last 2 starts, but I don't know, giving a little bit of weight to Sail Away, and that do start form is pretty strong. Of course, he lines up in the Scottish National. I don't expect him to go and win this by the rate he won the Warwick race by, but I still think there's a little bit of room off his mark. And he's very lightly raced. Adele and Charlie, you can make the case for your selection. Adele, first of all.
Do you want us to do it again?
Have you all done it?
Yeah, we've all been through.
Yeah.
The main revelation was that Steve revealed that Harry Skelton isn't even the best jockey in their marriage. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. We're like
that's brutal.
That's
That's brutal, Steve. Although I know, I
think she's very good. Really, really good rider, Bridget Andrews.
She's got a higher strike rate over fences as well, which I was surprised by. Anyway, right, let's move on to the 225. Scottish Champion Hurdle. Colonel Mustard is 6.0. Soaring Glory is 7.0. Lotus Sud 7.5, as is Roubaud. And then we get into slightly bigger prices. Last year's winner was 9.0. Go on, Adele. You can come in on this. Who do you fancy?
I've come down on Roubaud. I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with the hood because Harry said when he won the Dovecote, he said he thought he would have won further if he'd have left it off, because it's funny, the hoods always, I find, an interesting one with the jumpers, because the flat boys absolutely love them. They're absolutely brilliant. But then a lot of the jump jockeys are not keen on the hood because they say it stops them hearing the horses coming. So if they've been like left out in front for a while, they kind of don't really hear any of the horses and they don't hear the crowd. And they always think it's a bit more of a problem in the closing stages. It's like as if you want to take the hood off like the last furlong or something. But obviously on the flat, we absolutely love them. But he's still got it on. I know he's like to dictate the pace. I mean, he's a really only bad performance was when he pulled like a train, wasn't it, in the Betfair Hurdle. Other than that, I think he's done very little wrong. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to dictate the pace or not, because it looks like there's a couple that might go forward. I thought Brian Hughes might go forward on Royal Mogul. So not quite sure how he'll cope. I don't know, is he a bit sulky if he doesn't lead or not? I'm not quite sure. So it'd be interesting. I'd be interested to see how he goes on Saturday, to be honest with you, because I do think he's got plenty of ability. And it was interesting when Harry said he thought he would have won a lot further if he hadn't had the hood on last time.
Peter's highlight at Cheltenham was meeting you, Adele, he says. I hope you remember.
Oh, that's nice.
Charlie.
It's a real cracking race.
I'm sure it was hers. I like that, Helen. Go on, Charlie.
It's a real cracking race, this, and I'd really, not that I'm with him, but I'd really like to see Colonel Mustard win because I think he deserves to get a big pot. I ended up coming just for the competitive nature of it. I wanted something at a longer price, and I thought First Street was overpriced at 12.0. You know, as in he since November when he won at Newbury, you know, he was third behind Marie's Rock over 2.5. The I Like to Move It was fractionally disappointing, and he ran fine the county hurdle, and he's been dropped a further £2 for that. I think he's also with loads of class, hence the top weight in this race, and I think it's going to be running a strong tempo, which will suit him well, you know, over the 2-mile trip, and I just thought he was way too big, so win and place for me, First Street.
I agree. I thought that if you go back to his place in the county hurdle last year, when he probably challenged up the wrong side, I thought he was very interesting. The trouble being that he didn't really back that up last time. Just to add to the noises, someone's now at the door. So I still think he's got room off his mark. He hasn't cut it up in grade, but yeah, First Street for me. But again, win and play. Steve.
I think it's the internet engineer at the door. Come to put fibre optic in to your little dial-up.
Now Ollie's gone. We're all right. He's like my gremlin. Go on.
Yeah, I'll tell him you thought he looked like a gremlin. Soaring Glory. It's not a race I'm mad keen on, but Soaring Glory, I think it's interesting that this horse goes exceptionally well off the back of a break. If you go back any run off the back of a break of 2 months or more, over 2 miles, is over hurdles. So you're narrowing it down a bit. It's very good. So one at Ascot, one before that at Newbury in the Betfair hurdle. You're going back a few years, and then one first time up over hurdles beating Brave Man's Game, and one bumper first time up. So it goes exceptionally well after a break. Didn't take to fences. Didn't like 2.5 miles last time New Year's Eve at Newbury. It's become potentially well handicapped, and I thought in an open race, Soaring Glory might just be the one, but I'm not mad keen on any.
At 7.0, the future champions novice Chase is the 3 o'clock at Ayr. Then we've got 4 from Newbury to do. As far as prices go for this, it's a good-looking renewal with Balco Coastal in there, 3.0. That's all right, Gino, 5.5. Unexpected Party, 6.5, as is Thunder Rock. Tell Me Something Girls, 7.5. I thought I made my decision based on the Thunder Rock and Balco Coastal, there being too much between them in the betting. It was simple as that. I don't think he should be over double the price of Balco Coastal based upon their run in the Scilly Isles. Decent ground, back in trip. I think that's what he wants, but he does need to jump a little bit better. I appreciate that. Adele.
Wasn't a race that I'm overly strong on. I've gone with Balco Coastal just because I thought like he should appreciate the ease and grade. His form with Jerry Colomb is obviously quite good. I know he's got a disappointing run to overcome at Cheltenham, but I don't know. I just think surely if he was in the right frame of mind, like he should be able to win this, should he not? But I wouldn't be like lumping in on him, to be honest.
Balco Coastal top of the betting. Steve, another slightly bigger price. Come back in, Steve.
Fucking hell. That's all right, Gene. I got too many things to click. I'm sorry. It's just. I don't know whose performance has been worse, yours, mine, or Ollie's. That's all right, Gino, for me. Found it all a bit too much in a big field on soft ground at Cheltenham in the plate when he never got into it from the rear. It was favourite that day, but I think the positioning, Seddon was up with the pace all the way round, and I think the pace held up that day. You go back to his seconds to Solo in Stage Star, So the one to Solo was on better ground. He won at Chepstow, beating Calico quite easily on better ground. And I think the better surface will suit him. So, and I think the smaller field and there is a fair bit of pace in here. There's a few that like to go forward. So I think if you run at a decent pace, and I think you can just get into it and pounce in the closing stages. Well, that is the theory with That's All Right, Gino.
Charlie, who do you like?
Okay, I wanted to avoid horses from Cheltenham, so now tell me something, girl. She again a bit like Ollie's horse Thunder Rock. She'll need to put in a good round of jumping, but her form at Nace got a boost when Instit beat Allegory de Vassy at Fairy House, and that form was held up at Thurles when behind Bride's Hill. She gets the mare's allowance as well, and I just thought the ones at the head of the market, they might be classier than her, but that there was angles that they're possibly coming towards the end of a long season, whereas she hasn't ran since the end of February. And look, she has plenty of back class as well for all that she needs to put in a good round of jumping. But I thought 7.5, 8.0 was a big price about a mare of her quality. All
right, that is air done and dusted. We're going to move on to Newbury now. 4 races we've got. We'll start at the top of the card as well. And this is the 130, the Finest Surprise Stakes, which is now known as. Adele, I'm interested here because I remember you being against Hurricane Lane, particularly when you saw him in the paddock for ITV. And I'm all out because I think he'll be campaigned a similar way. I'd just be against him here. I think Mojo Star is just as good as him, to be honest. But you're with him, are you? But would you not want to have a good old look at him first?
Yeah, but I just like when I spoke to Charlie like last year after last season, I think I'm sorry, but you can't possibly be coming into this year in the same way as what he was last year. Like, absolutely. I just think he can't. Like, I love Charlie Appleby as a trainer. I think he's fantastic. I cannot imagine he will be coming into this season that size. I can only really think that maybe he had a little bit of a problem last year. I know he's a big looking horse anyway. He carries a lot of condition. He wasn't quite ready for the Hardwick. So he'll definitely. I have heard though that he's working really, really well. So that's a big plus. I think he pulled 5 lengths clear of whatever he worked with the other day. So that's kind of has me thinking like he wouldn't be still in training, would he, if there was something wrong with him and they're working back from the arc. So I just cannot have him coming into this season how he was last year. Like I can't imagine Charlie making that mistake twice. I just can't.
Okay, fair enough. You're with, I'm against, and the other two are I don't know about dead against, but looking elsewhere. Charlie, you're with Mojo?
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm against Hurricane Lane. I agree completely with what Adele says. I can't believe Charlie Appleby is going to risk him being as unfit as he was for his seasonal debut last year. But he's still, even allowing for that, he's got questions to answer about whether he retains all his ability that we saw, from his 3-year-old season. So I think Mojo Star, there's reasons to believe he can still progress further. We only saw him last year in the Gold Cup when he ran such a huge race. The ammo horses are flying. Not that means anything towards this horse's chance, but I just think that there's upside to him in this staying division, and there's reasons to believe that he can go on to much bigger and better things. For all that we've seen a very high level already. I was nearly tempted by Max Vega to repeat last year's victory in this race with his real liking for his form at Newbury. Seems to be better than anywhere else, but Mojo Star for me, and again taking on Hurricane Lane.
Stephen,
I want to be against Hurricane Lane, considering that I think he's going to need the run, and I thought Isra was interesting. A horse that went through handicaps last season, was 5-2 favourite for the November handicap. That was on desperate ground, and he had a very wide draw, and I think it just came on he'd been on the go a fair amount of time, but he progressed really well, and he's got plenty of form on soft ground. I don't think that's going to be a problem, and he's got the pedigree to step up to this sort of level, I think, this year. I'm glad that some of you finally realised that ratings don't mean anything in these sort of races. It's who's ready and who's progressing, and I think that's Israel, who is a son of Tagruda, who won the Oaks and was favoured for the Arc. So he's got a top-class pedigree and is with John and Thady Gosden. So you'd imagine there'd be fine first time up. He's a horse that won on debut, so you'd be hopeful. And Israel for me.
All right, moving on to the Fred Darling, now known as the Dubai Duty Free Stakes, and Remarque's 4.5, Bridestones is 6.0 as his Magical Sunset, Swing Along 7.0, Olivia Meralda is 8.5, 10.0 Soul Sister, then into bigger prices. Charlie Poste are going to come straight to you, and I agree with you, but I know a lot of people are going to be saying she won't stay.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, especially, this 7 furlongs on a flat track, as in she had a really good juvenile year. She was excellent in La Alva, and then, ran well in the give me a clue here. I've got a complete mental blank.
Newmarket.
Newmarket.
In the Phillies race.
GB Park. Sorry,
GB Park. Thank you.
Park,
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, exactly. Ran very well there. And Carl Burke, I just think whether he probably doesn't believe that she's going to stay the Guineas Mile. So this is a good prize in its own right. And I think she might just have sharpness on her side. Carl Burke's already won a trial. He took the Craven out yesterday with Indestructible. And there might be fillies in this race with more long-term potential that are going to progress beyond her. But as Steve has said, this is about the here and now with these sort of races. And I believe that she will be tuned up and ready to rock and roll. And if she bowls along in front and Clifford Lee gets an easy lead, she's going to take a bit of passing. And then I suppose they can make a plan where they go, whether they drop back with sprinting with her or whether they chance it at Newmarket beyond there.
Yeah, I agree. I think she won't stay a mile. 7 will be absolutely fine. She's the top rated in the race, but she's very good. And I know that the others. I just think this race it often attracts towards the top of the betting a once winner, and they might end up being the best of them. But for the here and now, we know how good Swing Along is, and I think 7 will be fine. And I thought she was overpriced. That's all. Steve.
Yeah, I think it's very easy in these sort of races to get carried away with horses that have run once and won once, the likes of Bridestone. So I think we'll need a fair bit further than 7 furlongs and Remark in Soul Sister and have you. But it always tends, these early season classic trials always seem to go the horses that did well as 2-year-olds that had a few runs. And saying that, I'm going for a horse that has run twice and only on the all-weather of Owen Burrows called Embrace, who first time up ran behind Dancing Goddess, who's a Charlie Appleby Godolphin horse who I think is going to be very good. It's a race that contained plenty of winners at a level, and like you would expect, Owen Burrows horses certainly improve next time to win at Wolverhampton in the manner of a really smart, promising filly. This will be her first time on turf, but she's by Lope de Vega, so you'd hope that the soft ground wasn't too much of a problem. I watched her win at Wolverhampton, and she did seem to pick her knees up a little bit, so hopefully that'll be the case. And she got a nice high draw, so she's just one that I thought was overpriced in a race that is always pretty open, and she's 23.0 or something like that. So I thought winning place, she was the way to go against horses like Remark and Bridestones that I think struggle in these sort of races.
Okay, and Adele 6.0 shot Magical Sunset. I mean, the owners are in great nick.
Oh, they literally. I mean, big year, isn't it, for Kevin Stott this year? And looks like he's got some really nice horses to ride. I was torn between Swing Along and her. Swing Along, I am a little bit dubious about the fact that she can overdo it a little bit in front. So first time out, I was thinking, don't know, I'm just not quite sure whether she just might be a little bit too gassy. Carl's horses are in great form as well, but she's been quite progressive, this filly. I know she didn't make her debut till August last year, so she's clearly needed a little bit of time. She's actually the only horse to beat Sakir. Richard said she is one of the nicest. When he bought her as a yearling, she was one of the nicest ones he's ever seen in his life. So I know he's like really held her in high regards. I wasn't quite sure, like as a profile. Yeah, I was thinking, like she seemed to relish Newbury last year in a listed race over 7 furlongs on heavy ground, but she'd been beaten with cut in the ground previously. So whether it was the fact that she stepped up to 7 or just the fact that she seemed to handle the conditions better that day, I don't know. But she's hugely progressing. So at the prices, I came down on her because Show Along, I'm not quite sure whether might be just a bit too gassy and overdo it in front first time out.
All right. So just to recap on that, we've got Swing Along for Charlie and I, Embrace Steve, Magical Sunset for Adele. Now we move on to the Greenham. There were going to be no official bets here. I'm going to stick something up because just at the prices. But first of all, Adele, Alex has said Chaldean for the Guineas. You called that already. Did you call that already for the Guineas? And if so, well done. And what do you like about the horse for the Guineas?
I love him anyway. I loved him last year. Frankie, like, he sings his praises. I mean, come on, Frankie's like, he's, what hasn't he, what kind of horse has he not ridden that he knows what level they're at? He seems really straightforward. He was a little bit slow a couple of times out the stalls last year, but I just love him. I just think he's a really nice horse. I can't see why he hasn't taken another step forward. Look, it's still kind of quite early doors, isn't it? Find out a little bit more, I suppose, on Saturday. But yeah, I think, well, was my early shout for the Guineas.
I'm just going to mention Streets of Gold without the favourite, who is obviously unbeaten, has won on all sorts of ground. But at 15.0, I think this horse is the price he is because he's maybe got a less sexy profile. He's come there, he ran a nursery, then he went to the sales races. But they're good races in their own right. And yes, Knight was impressive last time, tipped up by Michael DC at a big price. Theory of Everything's won with Cut Underfoot. But Streets of Gold ran to a pretty high level last year. And at the Curragh when he won, it absolutely tipped it down. So Cut is going to be no issue. And I think he's just a bit overlooked. So Chaldean will win, I think. But I thought Streets of Gold at the prices was interesting. Anybody got anything to add? You don't have to. Good. Let's move on to the handicap. 3.15 and Latam is 3.5. Al Rave is 9.5. Jimi Hendrix 11.0. Atrium 11.0. As is Saga 12.0. Bigger the rest. There's a lot of Lincoln form on offer here, which has already worked out pretty well. And we've got 4 different shouts. Good. Charlie, first of all.
Saga for me. He's got cheap pieces on for the first time. Gosden's horse are running well. He's got Benoit de la Sayed on, claiming an extra £3 off. You go back to the form of the Britannia where he ran second in a huge field. Obviously, nothing like that today. But the form with Algiers at York has worked out very well, even with the horses behind there. And I just think, again, there's every chance to believe this could be a group horse in the making. It's a competitive contest, this, with some horses with some really nice profiles. 4-year-olds also have an excellent record in this race, and I think the draw should be fine. Plenty of the fancy ones are in and around him, so Saga for me.
And Steve Jones.
Yeah, this is a horse that is currently 26.0, but will go off half that price, I'm sure. It's Great Max, who's one of my horses to follow this season, and it's another Ammo Racing horse. And that's interesting because he's left Michael O'Callaghan and joined Alice Haynes. Well, we saw at the Craven that horse leaving Michael O'Callaghan, joining Carl Burke, I think, wasn't it? Won that race. So it's interesting. Great Max has been gelded as well over the winter, and he does look the type of horse that will improve for that. And if you go back to his 2-year-old form, I thought he looked really good. First time up, I remember seeing him win at Newbury. And then he ran in good races behind the likes of Point Not Lonsdale and Native Trail. He was runner-up in the Solaro, but reached to the moon. Then he moved to Ireland. He was trained by Michael Bell as a 2-year-old. Then he moved to Ireland. It hasn't worked out whatsoever. But he's gone down to a really interesting mark, I think, this horse. And if he's fit enough first time up, and Alice Haynes did have him in the Lincoln, so he must have been on the go for a fair amount of time. And she's also in really good form. I think she's a really good trainer, Alice Haynes. She's having winners, so that bodes well. Little bit disappointed about the draw, but you can't have everything in life, especially at 26.0. So Great Max winning place, I think, is a tremendous bet. You might have to, after the race, you might have to say, well, I just needed it a bit, but you'll get your money back on this horse. This is going to be a really profitable horse all summer, and that is Great Max.
Adele.
I've come down with Brunch, who ran a really good race at Doncaster at Lincoln Day. He ran in the mile listed race, and usually he comes on for his run. He's quite a big burly horse, and usually Michael Dodds would need a run. They certainly seem to look like this season they seem to be needing a run anyway, although I think he had a winner at Ripon the other day, so maybe they're just starting to turn form. He's been a little bit of a hard horse to place because he's kind of not really Group 3 level. He's won listed races. Buick's on board. I think he'll take a massive step forward fitness-wise from Doncaster, because I did get a good look at him, and he still looked quite big. So I think he'll take a big step forward. He's a very straightforward horse. He was placed off this mark last year at York, carrying joint top weight in a handicap. So he's not been an easy horse for Michael to kind of place with, because it's like, where do you go trying to find listed races? And then he's not good enough for Group 3, but obviously he has to carry plenty of weight in handicaps. But like I said, I still think he should be able to play a part off this mark, and he's pretty straightforward, and William gets a good tune out of him.
Okay, I'm going to stick up two horses that ran in the Lincoln, which, as I say, has had the form frank pretty well already, with Empire State of Mind and Bo Pedro coming out and finishing 1-2 in a race. First of all, Revich, who probably got the worst trip of all the horses, was on the wide outside. The race developed away from him. He still ran on quite well, and he's got form with cut underfoot. He's a fair old price, Revich, who is 17.0. And the other one is a bit more obvious. Atrium, I think, is a really nice horse. He ran disappointingly when he got a lot of cover in the Lincoln, and then he just found nothing. Just ran as if he needed it. He just showed absolutely nothing late on. So no obvious excuses. It could be that the ground was too testing for what he's won on soft. But if you go back to his form at the back end of last year, it's really strong. I'm just hoping he really needed the run, and he's 11.0. Just on the draw, I probably prefer Revich, because I think when there's cut underfoot at Newbury, sometimes you want to be middle to far side, but doesn't always work out that way. But Revich should be the main one of the two. Long shots off the back of this. I'm going straight in with Revich in that 3:15 at Newbury. We've just done. Adele, your long shot?
I think, did I put a Baron de Middleton, but he might not even run. And then Brunch, I suppose, is big enough price that it comes under a long shot, does he? How long shot is long shot?
Brunch.
What price is Brunch?
12.0. That's fine. That's a long shot.
Is that fine?
Yeah. Steve, who's your long shot?
Yeah, Helen says yes to Brunch, but I'm sure she always says yes to Brunch, especially when there's champagne involved, knowing Helen. But who's obviously would her dream brunch partner would obviously be DC, but you can't have everything, can you? And mine is in the Scottish National Ruthless article. What is it, 41.0, something like that?
41. Charlie?
First Street in the Scottish Champion Hurdle.
Good stuff. Best lays. Well, we've all gone Hurricane Lane, Adele. So
that's why I haven't got one.
I need you. Are you working for ITV in Newbury or no?
No, I'm not there. No.
Whoever's there, we need to go. We need just to go. He's massive. So we'll see. Everyone's gone Hurricane Lane, no, except for Adele. Best bets. I'm with Pay the Piper in the Air Opener. 8 days after that last run or so. Adele, your best bet.
I've gone Magical Sunset in the Fred Darling. I think I'm hoping she can take this, and then I think she looks like she might even want to step up in trip. I think she'll be even better over a mile.
Steve Jones.
Also a long shot, Mighty Max. Is it Mighty Max? Not Mighty Max. Great Max. Sorry, I can't even get the name right. But Great Max, no, he is going to be a real good horse this summer. So I'm willing to chance him first time up at a big price. And if he's fancied, if he is going to win first time up, I expect him to go off half those odds.
Charlie.
City Chief in the Novice Handicap Chaser there.
Perfect. Which is pronounced Guido.
Which is pronounced Guido, yeah. Indeed, yeah. If we get the same result, I'll be happy. Yeah.
Good. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to laugh, because it means you can watch everything we do. That podcast was brought to you by Tottenham Hotspur, because essentially it was Spursy, wasn't it? Adele, Steve, Charlie, thanks ever so much. Have a good weekend. In all seriousness, it's a proper punting weekend. I think there's some great handicaps out there to get stuck into. So good luck, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.